Leonardo Notarbartolo, I guess is how you say his name, just a genius of a man. However, this man committed what they call the heist of the century. He figured out how to steal from Anthrop Diamond District. See, that's in Belgium, a place in Belgium where there's 84% of the world's diamonds that go through Antwerp, and extremely well guarded. Well, he had planned for years having a small video that was stuck away, video camera, and took all kinds of angles of the security, and he figured out, he just worked on it for years. In February of 2003, he actually got into the vaults, stole $100 million worth of jewelry that never was discovered. Diamonds, never discovered again. And so here's a very, very smart man, but did such a foolish thing. It's possible to be really smart and yet make poor decisions. Now, the smart people don't know they're making poor decisions, but that is possible. And we can learn from smart people, but not necessarily follow their footsteps into their dumb decisions. And we're going to read here from, at one point, the wisest man in the world. And we can learn from him. So I've entitled this sermon, Wisdom from the Wise. But Ecclesiastes 1, we're going to kind of walk through this if you want to follow along with me. It's very interesting. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher. Completely meaningless. What do people get for all their hard work under the sun? Generations come, generations go, but the earth never changes. The sun shines and sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. And the wind blows south and then turns north. Round and around it goes, blowing in circles. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea's never full. Then the waters return again to the rivers and flow down again into the sea. Everything is wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, we're never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we're not content. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is new. Now, I know that back in March of 2004, I had done a sermon kind of with this text and some other verses about chasing the wind, but this isn't refried beans, okay? It's a new sermon, all right? And so I want to use this. First of all, Solomon, he ran the rat race. He was in the rat race of life. And at the end of it, he's like concluding, the rat race is for rats. And it's meaningless. What do I get for all my hard work? Time's ticking. Generations come and generations go. Talks about the sun rising, setting, and races around to rise again. The wind swirls and circles, and the rivers pour into the waters, only return back again to the rivers. It's all wearisome, beyond description, just wearisome. People are never satisfied, no matter how much we see, how much we hear, never content. And history repeats itself. Yes, our history. We're always back to the beginning again. In fact, he makes a statement, nothing's new. It's all been done before. We seem to get new things that seem to make life easier and new things to maybe make the load lighten up a bit. And we enjoy things for a time, but you know what? we're always back to square one again. In fact, he says these words because people insist, no, it's brand new. No, we don't remember what happened in the past. And in the future generations, no one will remember what we're doing now, if time tarries. Everything going on, he says, is meaningless. So here's this man that's the wisest man, but, you know, he went on in chapter 2 to write this book of Ecclesiastes, and he says, the teacher, I was king of Israel, and I devoted myself to search for understanding, to explore by wisdom everything being done under the sun. I have greater wisdom and knowledge than any of the kings before me, so I set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and on to folly. So he set out to explore everything, searching for understanding and exploring with his wisdom. And then in chapter 2 he says, let me try pleasure, the good things of life. You know what I found? I found that laughter is silly. What good does it do? I decided to cheer myself up with wine. There you go. To clutch at foolishness. And I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. I tried building huge homes and planting beautiful vineyards, and I made gardens and parks, filling them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect the water to irrigate my groves, and I bought slaves, and both men and women, others born in my own household. I also owned herds and flocks, and I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labor. I collected a great amount of silver, gold, treasures of kings. I hired singers and many beautiful women. I had everything a man could desire. Anything I wanted, I'd take. I denied myself no pleasure, but as I looked at everything, it was all so meaningless. So here's a man, the wisest man, they say, to ever live. He tried everything. He said, I set out to experience and to explore, and I've tried to hold on to my wisdom and figure things out. And so first of all, I tried pleasure. He says, the good things in life, at least what people say is good things, I tried it. I went after it. I tried the laughter. Ha, 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 ha. This is silly. That's what he said. Meaningless. It's just meaningless. Why? And then he goes on to say, I got into the drinking. Yeah, I clutched that foolishness. I went that way. I tried and experienced, and he adds this. I tried this, the only happiness that most people find. I tried it. He's talking there about wine. I mean, that's the best you got, the only happiness? Really? Even says I tried building houses, huge houses. Now, huge houses then is quite different than huge houses now. Houses are getting bigger and bigger as time ticks on. You know this house here? That's where I lived when I was from 3 to 8 years old. Mesa, Arizona. 546 South Stewart Street. Yep, I still remember the address. You know, we had 8 people in that house. I was the youngest of 6 kids. And that house was like the happening place. It was brand new when we moved into it. 1,150 square feet. 3-bedroom, 4 girls in one room, my brother and I in the other. My parents, just a little time. We couldn't all fit in the living room. 8 people, 1,150 square feet. Yep. And we were doing really well. Really well. My dad had a good job. We put a pool in the backyard, but built-in pool. I mean, that was a big step. He had a motion picture camera. You don't know what that is, do you? You're used to video. And we even had a basketball hoop and backboard on our house. All the kids would come. I mean, we were flying. We were doing really well. But then we went on from there because he said, I built huge homes. Well, we went from there, like Solomon. Solomon said, and I built beautiful gardens and flourishing groves and parks. And so, you know what we did? 1967, we moved to Garden Grove, California. 112, 91 Ivanhoe Street. There it is. I lived there for 3 years. I mean, we are like 2 miles from Disneyland. And this was a huge house. We had 1,350 square feet. Kaylin's house is 1,650. Kaylin and Jay's. So just give you an idea if you know their house. That's like a tiny home today. This was a huge home to us. And Garden Grove, we had every kind of possible fruit tree in the back. We had fig trees. We had pomegranate trees. We had just all kinds of trees, lemon trees. We had, on and on it went. What a home. Beautiful gardens. Really. But now, after he built those gardens, now he needed reservoirs. He had to build reservoirs to collect water, to irrigate the gardens. Got to keep that investment alive. Then he had to buy slaves and to care for the groves. And in fact, even in the text we read, he incorporated his own slaves. It says, slaves from my own household. He incorporated his own children. No, you were born to work. Get out there. And he had herds and flocks. Why? To feed the slaves. The slaves that take care of the groves and the reservoirs. To take care of him and his house. And then he went on from there to, he used the word collect. Collections. Great sum of silver and gold. Now, I found it interesting. It's in the documents that his goal of gold yearly was 666 talents. Today they would have thought him to be the Antichrist. He had treasures of kings. What does that mean? Well, whatever kings would collect. Whatever kings like to do. Maybe a 4-wheel drive, motorcycle, or who knows. But he'd see something a king would have. I think I'd like to have that. And then he, of course, wanted to entertain himself. So many singers. Put on plays and concerts, no doubt. And the women that he had. These were like collections. I remember Tarkan in Turkey, a good friend of ours. He was a policeman. He really got saved. God touched his life and healed his knees. And he was really a good man. Him and his family, they were very good friends of ours. But the first time he went to his house, he started pulling out all these things he wanted to show me. Collections. He had a rug collection. He had a stamp collection. He had a coin collection. He had a knife collection. He had a house collection, on and on. Finally, his wife jumped in and said, yeah, I'm wondering one day he's going to start collecting women. Solomon did. Saw a woman? Ooh, she's pretty. I want her. 700 wives. And boy, did they take his heart. They took his heart. Before you knew it, he was serving and worshiping their gods, these foreign women, whom he was not supposed to marry. They took his heart. His lust got the best of him, and now he's worshiping false idols and building shrines to them for his wives. But you know, he had a way of finding pleasure, just his hard work, the sense of reward, that I worked hard. That's his reward. I worked hard. Really, does anybody hear me? I worked hard. I worked hard. I mean, that was his reward. Just the sense of working hard. I did it. And he goes on to tell us, I had everything. A man could desire everything. I wanted it. Therefore, I took it. I didn't deny myself anything. But when I looked at it all, why? What's the purpose of all this? A little thrill? A little enjoyment? And, you know, actually, he was vexed in the end. Not even just saying it's meaningless, but he's vexed in the end because he says, what's going to happen to everything I worked so hard for? I'm going to leave to someone else the fruit of my hard work and labors. Someone else is going to get it, that they didn't work for it, and will they be wise or just foolish? You know, Stewart Street, from Stewart Street, that little house we went to, what we thought was a mansion, 1,350 square feet. Wow. 8 people. I mean, that could easily house 20. But that was the Buchholz family collapse, Ivanhoe Street. Solomon's final conclusion, Ecclesiastes 2:24, there is nothing better than to enjoy food and drink, and I guess find satisfaction in your work. If you enjoy doing it, well, that's your reward. Really? Nothing better? Nothing worthwhile anywhere? And he had it all. We could learn from Solomon. We could learn from Solomon. He said, I did that. I went that way. And in the end, it's like, what for? What's it all for? But I want to move on to our advantage that we have over Solomon that lacked. Even though he was the wisest man to ever live, the wealthiest man, the wealthiest king Israel has ever known, but we've got some things over Solomon. You know, to begin with, we've got the Spirit of God living inside of us. We have our own relationship with God, the Father. To him, God was distant. The prophets knew God, but God was distant. We have God and we have a relationship with our God, our Father. And we can know and to do our Father's will. Thy will be done. Not my will, God, but thy will be done. I want what you want. Not what I want, but I want what you want. We can get to that place. He couldn't get there. And we could enter into God's work. Yeah. For our generation. To reach our generation. God has a plan for every generation, and we can enter into God's purpose for our own personal generation. And then we have something else that Solomon never got. And yet I'm doing my best to impact you, but I got it. I have a mind to impact my own offspring, my children. I don't want to just raise them and get them out. 18, you're out of here. That would be some people's doctrine. But no, I want to impact, as an inside joke, I want to impact my offspring, powerfully impact them to the point where they're going to want to impact their children in like manner. I want to impact them to live for God, to love God, to do something for God, but to the point where they also want to impact their children. Solomon couldn't do this. Didn't even enter his mind. His son that we know about, Rehoboam, was an absolute mess. He's the one that took the kingdom from Solomon. And you know, the people went to Rehoboam and they petitioned, we'll follow you, King Rehoboam, like we followed your dad, but could you lighten the load and the yoke that your father placed on us? Could you lighten that? But he was so stupid. You know what he said? My little finger is thicker than my father's thigh. And he whipped you with whips, I'm going to whip you with scorpions. You're really stupid, dude. They said, we have nothing to do with you, and backed off. And out of the 10 tribes, or 12 tribes, he lost 10 of them. He lost 10 of them. They went and said, you're not our king. We're not going to follow you. Yes, Solomon was hard. But he didn't start that way. But what he downloaded in his son absolutely split the kingdom. It split it. 12 tribes, now 10 left. 2 stayed in, Judah, and the Levites stayed with Rehoboam. But Solomon didn't care about his kids. He didn't care. He didn't have that. Everything's just meaningless, just meaningless. You got a little boy there. You got a daughter. It means meaningless. And he didn't have a heart to pour himself into other people. He didn't even think about making an impression upon someone else's life. Oh, he wanted to teach them. He labeled himself the teacher. I'm the teacher. And he was a teacher in many ways, but he had zero actual direction for people, zero answers, and zero disciples. And in the end, he was not liked by anybody in his kingdom. Completely unliked. So he didn't have something that we have over him. Because we have a chance to gain from our leaders, to learn from our leaders, to learn from our brethren. Oh, but Solomon, he was too smart. Too smart. His arrogance led to unrealistic optimism. His ego made him believe that he was too smart to fail. Too smart. Smarter than everyone else. And, you don't need or value outside ideas and thoughts. He was too smart. But we have valuable and practical things to be learned and to be shared. Not through a book. He wrote a book. He wrote a couple books in the Bible. But just in the common flow of life and relationships, laboring alongside each other. We've got brethren. We've got leadership. So much to be gained and learned. And we can be fine-tuned. As a pastor, I'll download all that I am. All that I am. I'll download what I know, who I am. I'll download everything that I can help you with. All I ask is what I told Mr. John Kofer, Brother Kofer. He's like a PA, and and I told him one time I went to him and had an issue, a medical issue, and so he's giving me advice. And I told him right off the bat, I said, I'm not going to ask you for something and not do it. What you do, what you tell me to do, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm going to do it. Do you remember that? Yeah. I'd sure like to hear that from you. If you ask me, you want my advice, it'd be nice if you took it. Probably maybe a little bit from an outside perspective, maybe you'd be wise to kind of lean in the direction that I'm telling you. It's up to you. You do what you want. We're not a cult. But you'd be wise because it's all up for grabs. Just to learn it. See, he didn't have that. He was too smart to gain from anybody else. So here's this genius, Leonardo. Genius. $100 million worth of jewelry, diamonds, gone. They still haven't found it. But they found him. Yep, they found him. He was smart. Too smart. Man, he had it down. They couldn't figure out how he got in, how he got those, and on and on. He was just so brilliant. He was a genius thief. Genius thief. Like a smart thief. That's possible. Be really smart and yet stupid at the same time. Genius thief. You know what they did find? They found a sandwich in the garbage that had his DNA on it. And they found some trash. And along in that trash, they found his business card. After years and pulling that off, a simple, stupid, foolish mistake, now he's got 10 years. In 2003, they prosecuted him in 2005, and they let him out in 4 years. But then to be dumb again, he violated his parole, back in, said, you're going to do the full 10 years now. Really smart, and yet really dumb at the same time. Solomon, the wisest man, cast wisdom aside. How is that possible? He went totally opposite the way he knew God didn't want him to go. Don't marry a foreign woman. He married 700 of them. And then he went after their gods. Do you know how we make bad decisions? How a smart person can make bad decisions? Because desires and impulses. At a given moment, our desires drown out what we know to be true. How many times have you and I'm thinking back, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this. Because our desires and impulses drown out what we know to be true. And then there's a disconnect of wisdom. It's like an on-off switch. Wisdom on, wisdom off. And you know what that switch is? It's the switch between knowledge and actions. There's a switch where your knowledge doesn't connect with the actions. It's like it's cut off. You know what that switch is? Self-benefit. The one thing that caught Solomon across the board. And I've wrestled with this for years, reading about Solomon, the book of Proverbs that he wrote. So much incredible wisdom, but the end of his life proved different. You know what it was? Self-benefit. That shuts off knowledge that you need for your actions. Shuts it off. Self-benefit. Be careful about that one. Can you say amen? God, we can learn. God, we can find ourselves even in the midst of what this man's experienced, the rat race, and how we've tried different things and found it all just so foolish. But God, we're going a different direction. We want you. Wisdom from heaven. And God, we want to stay dead center of the path that leads to life, joy, and real happiness. Help us, God, not to consider self-benefit, but to bring glory to your name, but to have effect upon others, and God, to steer our children into a place that they'd so appreciate and want to pass on to their children. You, God, be in the center of our life, that we can download those things in the mighty name of Jesus. So tonight, with our heads bowed and eyes closed for a minute, we always give opportunity for people to turn to Christ. I'm glad you came this evening, and that's kind of a sign that you believe in God, at least to some degree, or you want to believe in God. Well, we'd surely like to have you leave with the power of God at work in your life. You know, I made a statement. We've got the Holy Spirit living within. Not everybody does. Only those people that have invited Him in to their heart and life. Have you done that? Because from there, once you open your heart and say, God, okay, I surrender. Be my God. Take the throne of my heart. Wash me clean. Change me. Because I'm a sinful man. Once we make that decision, it does enter. He comes in. He promises He'll be our God. So maybe you've never done that, but you'd like to tonight. With an uplifted hand, you could signal, preacher, I do need God. I've been in the rat race. I've done some things, and it is meaningless. I agree. But I want to find a reason and purpose for life. Quickly, lift your hand. I want to make heaven my home. Lift your hand if you've never been saved or born again. Backslider, come back to Jesus. And then for God's people, you know, we can kind of race through this again. The hard work, trying to find satisfaction in this life. And Solomon says, you're not going to find it. I tried. Pleasure, partying, houses, gardens, and collected all kinds of things the world deems valuable. But in the end, it's like, not only is it meaningless, all the energy, but where's it going after I'm gone? So the conclusion for him, food, cokes, and just to know you worked hard? Really? No, we're way beyond Solomon. Sorry, bud, I appreciate your wisdom, but I'll take the Holy Ghost. I want God's will. I want God's work. I want to impact my children. I want to pour myself into others. I don't want to have a mindset to just benefit me, make a name for myself. Thy will be done. To you be the glory, God. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Let your name be great. Not a name for myself, God, but your name be great. In fact, let people know that I was out to glorify you. We're going to open these altars and let you come, and we'll sing this song. If you want Jesus, come. We'll help you.